Why don't we go ahead and get started? Morning, everybody. Ask and remind everybody to speak directly into a microphone. So comments helps in preparing the minutes. Speak directly into the mic. Can hear you clearly. Appreciate it if you could do that. Thank you. Welcome. Comments or suggestions on none. Second item and throw it to the we have some discussion items. And it is on it. Wait for him to arrive and then he okay. Well, let's just say that the handout in your this will be the manager's position on the council committee. Comment stand. Also provided for you is a copy of the budget that was trustees at the last meeting. Ask me, I made so. Point of information, we will be closed on the 9th, this day. Next board of trustees meeting 11th, which will and with that, I'm going to pass it on to Adam to talk about what's going on with resources. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, you're good.
take your suggestion under advisement.
That presumes that.
Thank you. Adam, let's.
Adam, Green Valley's been contacted by TCQ regarding the taste and odor. Answered their questions so far, but they occasionally um, re, give us a call and status of that. Did you email this report? Shows that we're tracking it. Yeah, I don't, and I can't tell you this morning if we have any calls. I think but I can't verify. I will, but what we're trying to do is answer their question. That through our water, through CRWA, y'all are tracking it. This graph shows, verifies that. This will go away pretty quick, but they also start asking questions about is it repaired, is it online, or is what's going on? Reaching out GBR, official statement from them to pass. Just want to let you know what we're doing. But this graph would certainly help include that with our with y'all. Christopher Lombard.
Happy to provide that to you, Pat. It's this graph is part of the sheet. Keep updating all the time. The graph is updated automatically. Happy to do that for you. It's a spreadsheet, and that way you'll have not only the graph but the data itself. Right. As a point of information, we'll get to this topic a little bit more later, but in terms of looking at upgrading the treatment capacity of the plant, looking at is using something like granulated activated carbon, GAC, to help with taste and odor. More to come on that later. Right here in Lake Dunlap. Just as a point of information on this graph up here, reason that the line is a bit more busy on the right side as compared to the left side is that we changed our sample frequency. Get twice per week now. Any other questions? Anybody's interested in this graph, spreadsheet we're having? Hey, why don't we move on to treated water production update?
So, here at Lake Dunlap, so far this month, had a high of 14.281 million gallons through the plant, low of 11,395. But 21 out of the last 27 days, we've been above 13.3 going through these filters. So we do have them working a lot better, but anyhow, we're making progress. Everything else is running pretty smoothly here. Out at Wells Ranch, high out there has been 12.196 million a day, low is 7.804. We do still have the one well down, well one. They're actually supposed to have showed up yesterday with the materials. I was out there around right afternoon yesterday and they hadn't showed up with the stuff, but they had installed the pump and stuff back in that well here about a month ago and it vibrated real bad. Well, they pulled it out, went back in and checked, and 7 of the shafts had a bend in them. That was after they'd went through and repaired, so I don't know. They hadn't determined if it was the new shafts that had been replaced or old ones, but I guess they had dropped them, bent them, something had happened during shipment somewhere. So anyhow, everything's back together. They were ready to start installing it again yesterday, so that'll give us a little more additional water we can produce out there. But keeping up good now everywhere. We got still producing a lot of water, but we have water in all the tanks, so usages went down a little bit. Other than that, we've everything else is running pretty smooth out there. Hayes Caldwell, the high this month is 3.498, so almost 3.5 MGD out of that plant. Low was 2.212. There, had 2 days that we had some issues with the Paul trailer. They had people down here immediately. They got here that evening of the first day, and by the next morning we had it resolved. It was on one side of the half of the trailer. They had some more valves that were sticking. It was positioner. Couldn't get to it where it was at. They sent a really small person down here who was able to get off in there to fix it. But other than that, the plant's doing pretty good. We are having some issues with one of the coke stages on keeping it, pinned and stuff. So we're trying to keep the pressure off of that one, keep the pressure lower on that one compared to the other two. As far as the getting close to getting ready to go out for bids on the tank for the nuclear well. Went and paid for the permits and stuff the other day there, so we're going to be issued them here pretty quick. The electrical has been moved next door. We got the spectrum cable that has to be moved, but they're telling me they're going to get through with that here in the next couple of weeks. Getting the meters moved out of the easement that was over onto the other side of Max's. Justin, they're supposed to be finishing that up today. I need to get with you to see which meter to move. He has 2, and we're only moving one of them, so I don't do with the other one. And the deal we made out was just lay the line and put 1 meter over there, so I don't know what to do with the other ones. That's where we're at on that. Anybody got any questions?
Could you repeat the high and the low of the Hayes Caldwell?
Hayes Caldwell, the
Production.
high was 3.498. Low was 2.212. we're averaging, a little over 1 million a day through the Paul trailer. Could push a little bit more, but that's kind of making it where it's all running smoothly.
David, let me ask you a question. How are we doing on reservoir tank levels system?
Good everywhere. We got water everywhere. No problem keeping it.
Do you have any other questions for David?
All the years I've been involved in Green Valley and City, I've never been.
So I'm going there after this meeting. You want to ride?
I need to go look. I've never known. I need to go see it. I can't believe all these years I've never been.
We have an
Time
operator
you want to
position
go,
open.
let me know.
I don't know what you're expecting, but the expectation should be
That's okay.
not as big as.
Water though.
Questions? Okay, why don't we move on to water rights and water usage? I know this is a topic of interest for most of you, so why don't we turn it over to Adam, and he's going to walk you through it, and you may have questions, so we'll try to address those as we can. Thank you. By the way, this should all be in your report. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
So daily
lower because of the increase you Dunlap?
Yes.
And we're running the Wilcox wells this year.
Sun has been off.
January.
No, the primary reason, Umberto, because the demand, trying to achieve the satisfying the demand out of Lake Dunlap here,
Doesn't
so.
make sense to use Lake Dunlap in a drought situation. Without water, water that's firm. Problems with operation. Everyone who has groundwater.
Well, Umberto, it's, we're following along with the requirements. We're meeting with contact with them. It's far cheaper to produce water out of Lake Dunlap than it is. Any other comments on that?
Glad we have remaining capacity.
Oh, absolutely. Got tremendous
Even the
capacity.
problems we've had at Wells Rag, it's been a struggle to get that up and running, but appears like we're holding our own. I know last year was a little different story. We've learned from that, moved forward, made some changes, and I think it's worked.
We're not stressing the wells too hard. We're not stressing the plant too hard, so it's going pretty well.
We're concerned about the bench shafts in the well. Because I grew up in machine shops, that's why I would know that.
Good point. Any other comments? Sure.
Hey, Adam, at one time, and it may have been last month or months, probably my notes from previous meetings, but one time on the Hayes Caldwell side, we were concerned about the break point that had dropped to the degree we were concerned. Break point, is that true or am I dreaming that? Very little water. Right. As the rail, as the, that level of raw water is improved at all, or is it, what made me think of is what we're talking about on the Lake Dunlap. About it improved, it's dropping just like Caney Lake is, or it fluctuate as much. Right.
Out above ground. So the San Marcos River is down about 18 inches where it normally runs at, which leaves us about 18 inches above the intake screens. We haven't had any issues with the pump as far as pumping. Put a different one in there 3-4 years ago, and it's worked perfect all along. But what we have is algae grows on them screens,
Yeah.
and we're having to clean about once a month over there. It'll get a foot long, and it just gets a mat of mud in it, and it won't let they can't suck the water through. So as soon as it starts dropping down, we go in, dive, and clean it again. Perfect resting bench for the floaters on the weekends. Sit there about 18-inch water and
Mm-hmm.
drink beer all weekend. And
That should help the flow, right? there.
that does, that helps the float tremendously there.
Helps the algae
So-
grow too.
Algae grow, yes.
But,
I was just curious. I know y'all talked about it in the past. I just wanted to know if status had improved or stayed the same. Hadn't changed a whole lot, has it?
As far as the pumping the water out, it hasn't affected us. Used to, it would affect us big time, but we've changed put a different pump in there that works a lot better now.
Adam, you're aware of the situation with the overage and the issues we're trying to address at Hayes Caldwell. How quickly can you give us current information? This is a month behind. How quickly can we get current information? I'm asking, I guess, for Hayes Caldwell. And the reasoning is, I think, with updated information, we all are informed with regards to what's being used and what's not being used. So if we come together and we decide, as the next move is, at least we all are aware. Right now, we're looking at information, as you can tell, is a month behind. And if we continue the same way, one would presume by December, get November's reading, and that's too late for us to do anything. Best that we're all informed, at least the members of Hayes Caldwell, and speaking on behalf of all the members, the more information we have, the easier it is to resolve these issues.
So Humberto, for, the raw water coming out of the San Marcos River, as of this morning, I have 811,337 gallons a day that I could pump each day out of the river for the rest of the year. So, on the days that we're below the 2.8, that gives us additional water. So looks like we're gonna be all right this year on the,
Yeah.
make it to the end of the year, but
Yeah.
just to give you that
Yeah,
information right quick here.
And I appreciate that. I'm more concerned with the amount of water that's being used by the entities, so we all understand and we're all informed. So
Sure.
when we come together and we have our meetings, we can see that it's current information, opposed to a month behind, because a month behind, we're all speculating. What is that number gonna be? What is it gonna be? And that's an ask. I'm asking, why do I need to send an email? Do I need to do it through the Board of Trustees? Well, I think we have notes and it's videotaping. It seems to me like I'm asking. I mean, Justin, would you like that information? Like that information? But why do you need an email? I thought the Board of Managers for us to hear, talk, and work through issues. It seems to me like I'm gonna have to jump over hoops, but if that's a position you want to take, that's fine. I'll bring it up at the Board of Trustees. I see it as a problem because I'm asking a board member of this board, got minutes, we got a videotape. I'm asking, unless that's a new procedure that I'm unaware of, but
So,
please send it to all entities.
so when we decide to switch the construction committee meeting with the current schedule on the Board of Managers meeting, you'll get the most current update that's available. So that shouldn't be a problem going forward. It requires Adam to spend some extra time to prepare that kind of information for you, because his schedule's pretty busy already doing other things.
But I
He
appreciate.
and I will talk together to figure out when we can get this accomplished and what time.
I appreciate that, John, but the issue at hand is that we have an issue currently at Hayes Caldwell. I'm sure you're acutely aware of it, because nothing has been done. My point is, the more information we have, the better we can have our discussions. That's all I'm asking for. And I'm glad we're gonna have these meetings after the construction committee, so we have the most updated information. That's all I'm asking. Can we get that information today?
Well, I don't know if we're gonna get the information today for you, but we'll work on it and get it out to you as soon as we can.
Okay, well,
We have other meetings that we're working on. We've got a
Then
lot of
if-
projects we're working on.
when
So we
can-
will provide the
when can we
information as soon
expect
as
to
we
get this
can.
information?
I'm sorry?
When can we expect to get this information?
I don't know yet. We will let you know.
Anything else like sidebar, just.
And I agree with you. I agree with you, but I think it's important that some hear what's going on here.
Agreed, but I mean, this thing it can be.
But
Good
before we
point.
go
Thank
I
you.
want a commitment from the staff when we can get this, because if it's not going to be done in a timely fashion, then I guess it's a board issue.
Are there other questions?
Again, I want a commitment, John. When can you get this done?
I'm not gonna commit anything to it. I have conferred with staff and look at their schedules and see what.
Okay,
we
then it's
can
going to be a board
accomplish.
issue. It'll be a board issue. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
I had one more comment. David, Adam said that second, river intake was sent to TCQ as an emergency. Are we not using it?
Yes, we're using it. We actually have it certified now as a official take point, not just an emergency now.
Okay, I was just making sure we weren't operating any type of emergency condition or.
No, so I guess there was a time frame on how long we could leave it as emergency or something.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure, I mean, you'd said it was emergency. I just want to make sure if we were operating any type of emergency condition according to TC. Okay,
We actually have it listed as just a backup.
Right.
That we've got it listed, so.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on. Let's talk about Lake Dunlap and the interviews that we just completed. Adam? We're hoping to have that
Yeah.
by that time, yes. That's our objective. Adam? Next, on the Hayes Caldwell membrane replacement startup, I've sent a service agreement to Ardura for review and signature, and I'm waiting to hear back, if there's any comments or changes from UA Sun on that. Contract amount would be $110,528. Assuming they sign it and agree with, then we'll present it to the Board of Trustees for ratification. Questions on that? Okay. Hayes Caldwell Water Treatment Plant improvements outside the filter building. I'm going to turn it over to Byron. Like to come on up? Would you hand him the microphone? Thank you.
Good morning. Just to give a quick update, we're pending permit approvals from Caldwell County. We've talked to them. We're not anticipating any further comments, so hoping to get those permits in hand fairly quickly. We did receive the driveway permit on the 15th. And the city of San Marcos, we've been in discussions with them as well. They're pending approval from Caldwell County, so once we get the approval from them, we'll get the permits from the city. They are also reviewing our watershed protection plan, so that's pending as well. Once we receive all the approvals, then Water Development Board will issue their approval. As far as the ozone study, that's an internal review, so we're wrapping that one up. And then as John mentioned earlier about the membrane replacement, going to be scheduling a kickoff meeting for that and get started on that work. All the updates I have at this point.
Byron, and again, I'm going to state, and if I need to stay here long talking about this, I appreciate this cooperation because this investment by County Line and others is very important, specifically for Hayes Caldwell. Byron, with regards to the grant, initial grant that we sent, have we heard anything yet? Is there any, I'm trying to read real quick.
So we're currently working on the application documents, and we're putting that together. And then once that's complete, then we'll probably send that over to John, and then
No, what I'm speaking of is the first grant that we asked for. That was.
no, that's still pending. We haven't heard any. That's
because-
why we're repackaging
yeah.
it. Yes,
So we haven't heard anything from that because I understand generators are being issued out first and there was some. Okay. So there's nothing yet with that.
Byron, can I ask you a question? Do you have any estimate as to when we'll see the outcome of your bench study on ozone? What do you think? What's the timeline on it? Do you know?
I do not have an answer for that right now, but I can get one for you later
Thank-
today.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate that. Thank you. I just got word that UA had sent to us the signed service agreement, so I'll go ahead and sign that and send it back. That just came in this morning. Thank you.
And with regards to additional $5 million, it's my understanding we need a $5 million to complete what we're stating here. What was the thought process, Byron, with regards to getting the group together to decide whether we need to engineer some solution here, cut some stuff out, or what is your take on this?
for the phase one, moving forward with the ground storage tank and the piping.
The overall project?
Sorry?
The overall project, it's my understanding, the overall project is $5 million under, and we need to come up with, hence the grant that you spoke about. My question to you is, has there been any thought from Dora regards to reducing the scope or reducing or eliminating something? And I'm putting on your back, but I'm just thinking, have y'all thought outside the box?
Yes, I know we've been coordinating with David and discussing that. Try to update on that.
Any other questions? Talking about the generators, David, you just have one brief comment on that, right?
Yeah, we have, mitigations set up, for November the 2nd with, everybody to try to move forward with the settlement or whatever we come up with on the generator project.
Thank you. Byron, thank you for your comments. Next, we're going to talk about the transmission line improvement projects. Let me just preface that. David, thank you for coming up. Interestingly enough, we finished the one project we thought would come in last. The 621 project, that's basically wrapped up. So David, why don't you talk about what's still going on with these other projects?
All right, on the IH10 Santa Clara Azul transmission main project, TxDOT, we're working on a supplemental agreement to get everything pulled together for the portion of the contract that's going to be performed by TxDOT and their contractor. And then revisions to our contract with our contractor to square everything up. TxDOT had requested some additional information for the agreement. I provided that on Monday. I anticipate we'll have that final draft agreement for everybody's review by the end of this week. So my goal is to have, if we do get that by the end of the week, have that ready for a construction committee and board of trustees coming up.
Thank you, because the board packet for the construction committee needs to go out.
Correct.
By Friday, by the latest.
I'll provide you an update here before then, whether or not it'll be ready.
Is there anything that we're holding back on that they need, or is it?
No, like I said, they asked for some additional clarifications on the cost estimate that we provided. So I provided that on Monday. I got an email this morning that's been forwarded to TxDOT for their final review. So like I said, hopefully we'll get the full agreement package by the end of this week and then we'll be ready for presenting that to the committee, construction committee and board of trustees. But I'll keep you updated on that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
In the meantime, on that project, we've been reviewing contractor submittals. We provided our response back to the contractor on Monday as well. So we're still moving forward on that portion of it. So the idea is as soon as the agreements are finalized, we can get out in the field and start working on the project. Any questions on that project?
David, is there anything about submittals that you would need to look at or review?
He's been
We've been coordinating with David on
All
that.
right, thank you.
So-
Good. Thank you.
You think we're still good on prices? I mean, from what they bid on everything, or
Yeah,
have they said anything?
No, and we've been going through, part of this exercise with TxDOT and Weber and our contractors, trying to firm up all those costs and who's doing what. And so, so far everything's good on that. So.
Go ahead. Thank you.
On the FM1518 project, that project was awarded by the Board of Trustees last month. We're working with the contractor now to pull together the final contract documents. We should have all of that completed this week. Once that's complete, we'll set up a pre-construction meeting. I anticipate, I don't know if it'll happen next week, trying to get everybody together, but for sure by the week of October 9th.
October 11th is our Board of Trustees meeting. Do you think we could have the contract documents ready for our president to sign?
Yes. Yeah, I'll have that for you this week.
Thank you. Continue, please.
On the asset management GIS update, we have been working. We had met with staff a few weeks back with Adam, and he got us all of the remaining as-built information we were requesting. And so we're getting that input into the GIS system. I hope to have a draft of all that transmission main, Wells Ranch piping and treatment plant improvements ready for a kind of a first review by staff. We do have some questions on some of the alignments and kind of where especially the Wells Ranch well field piping. So we'll get with you guys on that. But we should have that ready here in the next week or two for that review. In the meantime, on the data collection for the transmission mains on this side of the river, I prepared a supplemental agreement for staff review. Staff has that. And so as soon as that's ready to go, we'll have a kind of a kickoff meeting on that. and kind of do the trade-off of the Cannon Regional GPS equipment and get a schedule and get that going. Happy to answer any questions on.
David, did that price come in about what you quoted the first time go around?
So the original quote on that, getting KFW to do the full survey and everything was 73,000. I think what we were coming in at for this portion of it was right around 40.
Excluding the purchase of the equipment.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, we're planning on using the Cannon Regional equipment to perform the data collection. So. No other questions on the design standards and specifications? We met with staff last Monday to go over the kind of the first review of what we had prepared. So we're working internally on updates to the details and then putting the full detail specification package together. Hope to have that ready here in the next couple of weeks for another review.
Any questions for David?
Thank you.
This is not here, but David, would you like to speak very briefly about the pipeline alignment for the county line? I guess as we're calling it now, the Hayes Caldwell pipeline.
Yeah, we're looking at some alternate routes to bring the pipeline around to get it over to Martindale and to county line. I think I've come up with a pretty good option. I need to look at it a little closer and check into it and see on some routings.
Any questions from anybody on that?
I do know, again, I apologize if I'm stepping on people's toes. I do know that Brandon was going to take the lead on this. And my question to you, my understanding the meeting will be October, probably first week of October. Have some information for Brandon at that point with regards to what thought process is about this line alignment?
I think I can answer the question. Brandon has asked us to hold off on scheduling a meeting until he directs the meeting date himself. So I'm waiting to hear from Brandon.
Question again is, will there be, if there's a meeting with Brandon, whenever it is, will there be information?
Yes.
Regards to what the thought processes? Okay, that's all I was asking.
Your thinking is to utilize a portion of the same pipeline to get Martindale some water and county line?
No, not really. Just laying a new one, just trying to figure out some routes for all of it and getting it to where that. Well, I need to get with Richard too.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't got with him yet this week. I was out last week, so I move forward with that and see.
Yeah, the only comment I had based off the agenda was it was called the county line. I just want to make sure Martindale wasn't left out on the planning.
They're in. That's part of what I've been working on.
Martindale is very definitely part of the discussion. Okay. Thank you, David. Let's talk about some water development projects. We don't have anything new on Alliance that was submitted to us. David, do you want to comment briefly about what we know about segment E coming here to the plant?
I know that they're working on getting ready to start doing some of the other construction. They've done our meter station back here. They've laid the line out across the backside of us. They've got it ready to be tied in, so whenever they do get the bore across the lake, they can come up here and tie it in on this end. I know that they're getting ready. I don't know if have they started on anything over at 123 yet.
I haven't started anything, no.
They called me last week. Yeah, they called me last week on that for doing the bore and stuff. And I sent them an email back, but I haven't heard anything else on it. And I haven't been over this week yet. So it's kind of where we're at on that, but they're moving forward with it, getting it here. Still have to do the stuff inside the tank 4 back here for the tie-in. That hasn't been done yet. Parts are all set back here.
Thank you. Next on the master plan, we received the final master plan report, which I have a few copies here. I sent those out to all of the entities that are affected by this report on the Mid-Cities pipeline and Lake Dunlap Wells Ranch system. Want a copy of it? There's a copy here available for you. That's completed. Jason, I know you're here with Troy Hydro. Jason, is there anything that you would like to comment on or add regarding that report? Feel free to come up.
Yeah, no, I'd just add that if there are any comments or questions, just let us know and we can definitely get them incorporated.
I know that the report is based on population projections, which are always in flux. Say that there are two basic scenarios in their report that look at adding additional lines or replacing lines, and they have different costs, and that's kind of what's in the conclusion section of their report. I encourage you to look at those as a point of information.
And John, I will comment on that is, I know projections have changed, but, in generally the recommended improvements, should not be affected by any projection changes. And it is a document that will need to be, occasionally updated.
So if population increases faster or slower, that can change the timing of when these things happen.
Of course. Yep.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Next, let's talk a little bit about Wells Ranch 3. We're continuing to pursue leasing and the permitting in Guadalupe County. We think we have an opportunity to pick up 500 acre feet. I don't know if that's going to bear fruit or not, but we're pursuing that right now. In Gonzales County, as you may know, had our first hearing for the board of directors of the groundwater district. A number of folks that statements of opposition. So the board decided to make it a contested case. We'll have a contested case through it and assigned judge, the same one signed for GBRA. The next hearing to determine a standing in that case. The objectors are the same ones pretty much that GBRA has had. So that's where we're at. That's an application for 920 acre feet. Increased production out of. It's just an amendment to the permit. That's correct. 920 acre feet. We'll work through that process as time goes on. I don't have no idea how much time that's going to take at this point. Next, we have a conceptual engineering plan update from Troy Hydro. I think we're expecting a report by mid-October. Is that correct, Jason?
Yes, sir. We're, our goal is to get that, prior to October 13th.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, when Canyon Regional overpumped their permit, did that come into play in some of the contested case hearing requests?
Not really. No, it's really mostly a crowd that just doesn't want the export of water out of the county. That was the
Was it
primary
brought up?
theme. I'm sorry.
Was it brought up?
Yes. Next, let's talk about the draft water supply and treatment contract agreement. Got a meeting coming up next week with bond counsel, legal counsel, and our financial people to talk about that a little further in terms of what the language needs to be in the Wells Ranch 3 contract to address some of the issues that we've been facing with the Hayes Caldwell contract. So that's coming up. I don't have anything else to report on that yet. Questions from anybody? Okay. On water supply and treatment costs, Joan, do you want to talk about the contract with New Gen on the blending?
So on the first item for the Lake Dunlap Wells Ranch, it was just, budget committee, because of the fact that our water contracts out of basin, in basin, that kind of thing, and trying to decipher drops from drops, whatever the case may be, we have signed a contract with New Gen to do a blended fixed rate of both Lake Dunlap and Wells Ranch. I did some calculations. Chris with New Gen is looking at that. I believe he started on it. He's asked for a copy of our fiscal year 2024 budget. And then on the Hayes Caldwell, a rate methodology for entities that go over their exceeded annual allotment amount. Gotten information from me, so I know that he's currently working on that also. Information from me.
That one is just basically updating the work he already did.
Basically, and he's gonna, actually, he and I talked about it, and because of the fact that the raw water cost for Hayes Caldwell is different for each entity, and he's gonna dive into that a little bit more and see if that makes any change.
All trailer, all rental included, and I don't believe it was included in the first analysis.
I don't know what he's
I just wanna
gonna
make
do
sure
on that one.
Lease payments included.
I'm sure he's gonna look at all of those costs. And if he doesn't, and I will bring it to his attention. But,
You're speaking of item B in here?
I'm sorry?
You're speaking of item 10B?
Yes.
Yeah, so I signed that agreement with New Gen last week. I believe they're starting to work on it. We'll present it to the Board of Trustees for ratification. He said it would take him about a month. Probably.
Sooner than that. No, he's requesting information as far as, usage and,
So just to give you a little background, we updated our analysis from 23 budget on what cost adjustment might be. As you recall, that came to 325. The update came to about 335. Provided that information to New Gen, and they're going to do a deep dive into whole analysis, because in the analysis that we did on it, we're treating everybody equally. And in fact, that's probably not totally correct. So that deep dive will look at the nuances of everybody's various participation, including the Paul trailer and so forth. Hope to get back satisfactory analysis. Ready to take a look at.
and also a comment was made, that we had a previous contract with them. And we had met or paid them what the previous contract was, so that's why we did another one. An updated contract.
Any other questions on that? So on item 11, I don't know exactly what date the next meeting will be at. What's in October? What is I guess it would be, if we're going to switch with the construction committee in the future, that's going to be in November with construction. It'd probably be the first Tuesday in November would be the next Board of Managers meeting. That makes sense?
That's something.
I don't believe so. That's a good question. But it's my understanding they don't have to.
Didn't say so, it's not.
Randy, what are your thoughts on that? I know you've been outspoken about switching.
So, yeah, it would.
Yes, we did. That's right. We did. Okay. Sure. The position has been advertised along with the position for project engineer. They've been advertised. That's gone to, I think Indeed, is that right? Oh, is it? The Texas Rural Water Association and what else? AWA. LinkedIn, excuse me, right. So the positions are available on our website. If you just go to our website, you can see the job descriptions for them. If we don't get much feedback in the very near future, I will be probably recommending to the Board of Trustees that we go and get a headhunter to help us with this. Not getting a lot of
Have you received any qualified applicants?
qualified? No. We have received one application or resume, if you will, not qualified.
With what John is stating. Possibly at the next Board of Trustees meeting, authorize firm, a headhunter, like say a firm, to help us solicit an assistant general manager. Because clearly this committee can make recommendations to the board. That'd be one recommendation I would make, and expedite this process. Clearly, I'm not sure how long it's been on the streets. I mean, I think I saw it, I know the board approved it maybe about 2 months ago.
No, that did not happen 2 months ago.
Executive committee meeting that was held, not this last month, the previous month. A month and a half. Lack of a better time. So my recommendation for this group, recommend that to the board that they see firm to help us find an assistant general manager. Asking for y'all support. I mean, it expedites the process. You know, don't wait another couple of weeks. We go out there, next meeting for the board is in October. Goes to the board taking it up. Board certainly would take this recommendation and consider it. I sit on the board, Mr. When you sit on the board as well. And that's recommended comes to the board and there's discussion and thought process. I think that helps us move faster with, at least for the assistant general manager.
Well, I think probably I'd look at first is, let's see how much enthusiasm we got from out there. And you say like, wait until the last minute. And if we haven't got enough or any qualified people in, then yeah, then we'll go ahead and go to the trustees and see about hiring a headhunter. Right now, I'd say, let's just see what happens.
But I think it's been posted for 3 weeks when I got the notification from CRWA. So if we wait, Board of Trustees is another 2 weeks, right? So that'll be 5 weeks that it's been out there. And if there's no qualified candidates in 5 weeks,
Yeah, and then we'll just put it on trustees, and have.
that
them-
agenda for the October
Yeah.
meeting, yeah.
Randy, I've had some preliminary discussions with Brandon Rohan on that subject a little while ago. Agreed with me that we should probably advertise. We'll take it up with the Board of Trustees. So Umberto's suggestion is consistent with our prior discussion.
Okay,
So
fine.
it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a trustee's directive, obviously.
So that's fine.
Another recommendation I'd like to make from this board to the Board of Trustees on this is that when we have that assistant general manager and there is a selection committee, I'm assuming there's a selection committee. Simply because many of you have done this, I know Green Valley has done it. Successor of the general manager is going to respond to the board. Board's going to be in charge of this person. Maybe the board to go through the selection committee. I wasn't part of those discussions in executive session when this whole item was brought up. What I'm asking for, general manager, patient process starts or tell it that there be a committee of the Board of Trustees, and that committee can be the executive committee. I really have no qualm about that. What I'm asking for, that 2 representatives from the Board of Managers to be part of that committee. The reason I'm bringing that up is the Board of Managers interacts more on a daily basis, if you will, that's lack of a better term, with the general manager, as opposed to some of these board members who don't interact with. So I'm looking for support for that recommendation that, again, the election committee that's going to be formed will be comprised of Board of Trustees, Board of Managers, and the Board of Managers. And more importantly, those Board of Managers are not part of the board. That way, we have some buy-in from the Board of Managers as to who we select as Assistant General Manager, who's going to succeed the General Manager. Right off the bat, I would throw 2 names out there. Who would those 2 people be? Obviously, can't be someone on the Board of Trustees. Throw Justin's name out there to represent the Hayes area, and I'm gonna throw Pat Allen's name out to represent Lake Dunlap and Wells Ranch. Gentlemen are not on the Board of Trustees. Got vested interest. They work on a, lack of a better term, daily basis with General Manager. Imperative that we get some buy-in from this Board of Managers. I'm asking for some consideration and some this forward. If not, I'll bring it up with the Board of Trustees. I think this is.
Well, as far as, and I don't really have a big problem with your suggestion, but the committees are set up by the executive part. So whatever they want to do, I mean, that's,
Committees are determined by the president of the trustees.
yeah. So,
And I'm,
and that's fine. I don't have a problem with what you're saying.
yeah, I'm aware that the committees are set up by the, and I said, you know, whoever the Board of Trustees want to set as committee. All I'm asking for is consideration from this board. And the reason I'm bringing this up, we've been told by many, this board is inactive. This board needs some buy-in. This board needs a voice. I think we have voices here. I think it's imperative that we are considering and consider the successor that we get input. Please.
No, that's fine. I mean,
That's all I'm
I
asking.
don't
So-
have a problem with what you're saying. And like you say, a lot of the interaction is with the managers. And so there's no problem with what you're saying, but like I say, the committee, the executive committee is the one up there.
So typically how we've done this, is we made recommendations to the board, whatever recommendations we want. One presenting this group would come up and say, here's a board of managers. So I would ask either one of us be there to say this is recommendation to the board. I don't know how you would cover it, because typically there was an item from the Board of Managers to the board. I would ask whomever that person is to speak on these 2 items and ask that we are supporting the logic to move with the firm, and we are supporting placement of 2 Board of Managers and possibly those names sit on this selection committee. The board decide whether they want to accept or deny.
Is there a precedent to where members of the Board of Managers has sat on any committee of the Board of Trustees?
Not to my knowledge.
Yes, there is. They sit in the construction.
But there is a precedent for that.
Well, yeah, what Brandon is trying to get to is that the board of, the construction committee be comprised ultimately by members of the trustees. That's a statement that he's made to me.
But to answer your question, yes, there is precedent. There was reasoning behind that because they wanted buy-in from the group.
That's a good question, but thank you.
My only concern with your suggestion is, committees staying in their respective lanes. I mean, there's some questions that maybe managers privy to. Attendance, there's just more to discuss, but my first inclination is that we need to be careful with it.
No, I agree with you, but there's also committees for selecting contractors. Some of the board of managers sit because their technical expertise are imperative for like.
That's different.
You know, but we also have board of trustees there. In regards to construction, same process. We have board of managers sitting on construction because the whole thought process was we need inclusion from that side with regards to these projects, which we're talking about, which are $1 million projects.
Technical expertise is different from managerial. That's,
Oh, and I
that's just my election, at least, of leadership personnel. two different ends, but that's just my opinion. I mean, it's not, we'll have to decide this today, just my opinion.
Well, I think we have to have some discussion today, Peyton, what are your thoughts? I mean, it only makes sense that we're gonna move with a recommendation that come from this group. Consensus wise, if there's no consensus, then I guess we take a vote, but I think this is a particular item that's imperative. Because again, the logic here is this general managers of these organizations tend to interact directly with the general manager.
True, but this would have been an item for the next meeting anyway. So.
No,
is that what this is?
it's actually an item for the Board of Trustees as well. Look at item number.
I will take your suggestion to the executive committee, but just so that you know, the agenda for the Board of Trustees meetings is set by the general manager and the president of the Board of Trustees.
And I'm not asking for a suggestion to be taken. I'm asking for recommendation from this group. So far, we have a recommendation that was accepted by Mr. Schwinn. I'm asking for that first recommendation to be accepted and be presented to the Board of Trustees, which is looking for a firm to do that. The second one, which we can do based on what we've done in the past, is make recommendations that will be put on the Board of Trustees agenda, asking for support. And if I don't get support, that's fine. I will bring this up as a board member of the Board of Trustees. I would directly ask for input from the Board of Managers because I think it's imperative the Board of Managers be part of this process. And I think I have confidence in the Board of Managers because we have boards ourselves and we have stuff that's taken in executive session, which not privy to the public. You choose not to. Now, I'm not hearing anyone say yay or nay. Peyton, I don't know what your thought process is, but I'd love to hear what you think. If it's not doable. But again, keep in mind, this will be coming up at the Board of Trustees, as I am a board member of the Board of Trustees as well.
I personally I don't have any opposition to electing somebody from the Board of Managers if that's what's decided. The only question that I have directly is what drives the need for an AGM in the first place? What is driving the need for an AGM?
So I'm going to defer and probably not answer that. That was something that was discussed in executive session 2 meetings ago. I'm not going to ask Mr. Schwinn to speak on that because I guess that was executive session issues.
Katie, you're asking a very good question. I think there's only one member of the Board of Trustees in here who was attending the executive committee meeting, but they are sworn to secrecy. All I know is that when the board came out of executive session, I was directed to in the advertising for an assistant general manager. I had already prepared the job description for that position as well as the assistant or the project engineer position, which had been reviewed internally by the executive committee, members of the executive committee. So I was ready for that. But I don't think, and is anybody here that can discuss the reasoning behind it? All I can say at this point in time.
I can tell you the agenda item they went in under. Came out of executive session.
From an objective succession planning perspective, Justin's correct. I mean, that's not uncommon. It's very common for folks to have an assistant general manager, I think. Even correct? Green Valley's got an assistant general manager, so it's not uncommon. Probably appropriate.
Fine with it either way.
Honestly, I don't know if I have enough information to lean one.
Okay.
I agree with you that managers do deal with the on a daily basis, if not, I mean, not a daily basis. I appreciate you nominating me for that. Don't, if this board decides to make that recommendation, I would accept. I do think it's a good idea to have somebody, Ace Caldwell, if that's the route we go from. To remember the conversations many times with Brandon's his feeling towards the lack of need for this board if there's nothing that comes from it. This board continues and it's utilized like it is, especially with the new bylaws that Randy and that group has been, and it's moved to a time frame where that stuff can be done. And then there mentioned appointing a chairman of that board to report to the chairman of this board to report those recommendations to the board. I don't see any reason why, but it's got to be consensus.
Well, my hope is we've always operated on consensus. So my hope is if there's, and we'll go for the first motion or the first recommendation, second, but yes, gotta be. We all agree, we agree. That's typically how we have operated this group. We all agree, Mr. Davenport, do we all agree this is a good idea? Is a recommendation, this is a recommendation, a good idea? Yes, we'll bring it to the Board of Trustees.
I think if it's truly session planning, and the plan is for this new assistant general manager eventually take over as the general manager at some point, there's nothing that could out trustee on it. Recommendation would I have no problem with you making this recommendation on my behalf, but
Pat, what's your take?
It's the process. It's almost like selling a piece of property. First, you gotta see what you're selling, see what the requirements are, how the advertisement is written. You're gonna determine how much response you get. That's the first thing. Green Valley did this twice because the first group of guys that we got, and some of them were very qualified, but I didn't like any of them. They weren't a fit. They were the type of people that point and direct and didn't work. These kind of entities around here are working people and they have to be that fit. You gotta be really careful what you ask for. You can advertise all over the place and not get what you want. But that's the process. And sometimes if you don't get response, sometimes you have to look what you're asking for and maybe tweak it a little bit one way or the other. Maybe your requirements are too high or not high enough. Maybe the wages you're wanting to pay are not going to fit. I don't know if you're advertising the right salary range or what, but I haven't seen the ad, so I don't even know what I'm talking about, but
It's a shame that you made.
okay. Well, that's not enough. I can tell you that right now. So I got guys, entities, a third of my size are making 20 grand more than I do. So don't go by my salary. Anyway, I don't think it's something that needs to be argued about because this is a trustee driven. It's not board of manager driven. So the board of trustees govern, managers operate. They make it happen. And so if the trustees, and you are a trustee, are you a trustee?
no, sir.
But you are, Randy, right? We got two trustees sitting in the room. And we have trustees that are board of managers and as well as trustees. And so if there's strong feelings on that, yes, hiring someone is a process, then let's get that established. But it doesn't have to come from the board of managers. It's already at the trustee level because that's where we get our direction from. That's where it needs to come from. So Humberto or Randy, either one of y'all, if y'all feel strongly about that, I would think someone's already given that some thought. I'm surprised Tim Foose hadn't already said, okay, what's next? We got it advertised. Let's get prepared, guys. Let's get these applications in. Who's going to look at them? That's part of that process. So now we got to establish that group or committee or folks to do a review. And by golly, they better pick the right one, right? So, like I said, Green Valley did it twice because the first round of guys we went through didn't really fit the bill. So it took us a year and a half. And we used a headhunter. And pretty much after using the headhunter, I still shoved it out there in other areas that I knew of. Worked or not, I don't know, but we spent a lot of money on headhunters. And we got the job done, but we had to do it 2 times, so we had to tweak the advertisement. We made a brochure and everything and stuck it out there, all those kind of things, and that looked nice, and we got a lot of reaction, but as an important position as that is, it needs to be done seriously. And there can't be any favoritism. You gotta be very focused and open-minded. That was my opinion. Sorry, guys, but I think we got enough trustee power in the room here that y'all bring it up at the trustees meetings. Hey, what's our process?
And if that's what we
Or
can see,
maybe establish a committee, request the president, or establish a committee to define that process and bring it back. I think you have time.
I appreciate that, Pat, because you at one point were the lead of this board of managers. Bring recommendations, you attend those meetings and you speak on behalf of the board of managers with regards to recommendations. I appreciate that. I guess what I'm asking for is that, again, to duplicate and to reiterate and to say it again, this group is being looked upon by others, specifically Brandon, for us to be more active. And by supporting what has already been discussed with a firm is basically that. We know it's going to be recommended to the board, and all we're saying is we support that recommendation to that. Makes sense to us. The other one is, again, something that comes from this group, which is a recommendation that the board can either consider or not consider. So that's all I'm saying. And so if it pleases everyone, because we went around the room, I'd like for us to consider, based on consensus, whether the first recommendation to look at moving forward with a firm, to recommend what's being done, to support what's being done, what we want to do. First item, I would say, yeah, makes sense to me. What say you, Randy?
Well, it's like I said, let's just, John knows what we want, as far. We totally agree with what you're saying.
So based on what I'm saying, you say you're not making a recommendation, you wouldn't support? I wouldn't say you wouldn't support, you just don't feel the recommendation come from this group.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's fine.
That's,
Yeah, we talked about it at the board of managers. We all feel that there need to be a committee or some direction, a selection committee. And they've done that before.
So Pat, since you have the mic, so what do you say you about the first one? About a firm moving forward? Do you support would you rather just let the board of trustees deal with it?
I think the board of trustees need to tell us what they want to do.
So
I support what you're saying, Humberto, don't get that wrong. But I don't think it needs to be a recommendation from the board of managers. Trustees need to realize that and make that decision on their own. If they're being trustees, they need to be engaged and say, hey, guys, what are we doing here?
So
but the board of trustees also have to add funding for it.
For the headhunter, yeah, that'll cost you 40, 50 grand.
So
Probably.
based on what I'm hearing now, there's not gonna be consensus. There's already two saying, no, so that one's thrown out. The first one, with regards to, based on what I'm hearing now, there's not gonna be consensus. There's not gonna be an agreement amongst this group to move
Well,
anything
We
forward.
can have consensus and we take it to the trustees and give them our recommendation, and it's up to them what they do, but we have to give the recommendation to the committee, the executive committee, to put it on the agenda.
Well,
And that's,
way it would look right now, and coming from the comments you said that we're being viewed as we're not effective. But we only got 4 of us in the room right now, so is that a consensus of the board of managers? Or is that just a handful of board of managers suggested we do this? If it's consistent, then it's consistent of the group. We got, and of course, we're commingled. You got to remember, we got board of managers, they're board of managers, they're also trustees. So we're already conflicted, not conflicted, but, there's no separation between that consistency. Doesn't mean anything coming from four of the board of managers going to the trustees. And those in attendance of the board of managers meeting are trustees. So what I'm saying, two of you are trustees, y'all raise your hand and say, hey, we have some thoughts we'd like to express here, or some suggestions. What are we gonna do with the applications, with the applicants? Can we establish a committee? And I'm sure the trustees around the table say, hey, John, what do you think? Kind of go from there. That's kind of how it happens at my board, or should happen at my board. Sometimes it doesn't, but I would hope it would.
My take on this, so we've been going 30 minutes on this back and forth.
Yeah, I know.
so To
So-
answer your question about it, I do not support the managers inserting themselves into a board of trustee process. I think we should let that go. Their direction comes down, we deal. And putting aside the parliamentary issues or trying to hold votes or anything else here, because this item here to me says items for next meeting. So I think we should just stick to that. Let the board of trustees do what they're gonna do. You're on there, you can bring that up, God bless, do what you want to do. But for us here, I think we should just let it be and let the process work out. That's just my piece.
Peyton,
Another item.
Peyton, and I apologize if we're taking long, but again, see, some of this is important. Some of us who have, considering $21 million in debt is very important for us.
Got it. I mean, I got 25 million too. I mean, I understand the importance, but I don't think this is our lane right now
We're on item number 11, which is recommendations to Board of Trustees.
for next meeting. And
The
not
next-
discussing,
For the next Board of Trustees
right, but
meeting.
not discussing it in depth here.
I appreciate what you're saying. I just want to get clearly there's some dissension, so I don't see this moving forward. I just want to say, and I agree with you, Pat. You brought up an important issue. And I think this needs to be addressed with some type of bylaws. At what point does this committee make recommendations? Is it a majority, is it a supermajority of the board of managers? At what point do we do that? And that's fine. I'm just saying, but you bring up a good point and I never thought about that.
That's not the only fair.
No, and I agree with you, and I appreciate that, because I didn't think about that. But, so lack of interest, I'm fine with it not being recommended from this board. It will be discussed at the Board of Trustees and a trustee level. If I throw out the name Board of Managers, shoot me now, but that name will come out. So appreciate your comments. Appreciate your input. But, other than that, I have no other items to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Any announcements? Your motion to adjourn? You second? All those in favor say aye.
Can't hear my right side. Or my left side.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.